Or then, could I invite Linda Stewart for the Coastal-Burwood Community Board Submissions Committee, along with Tim Sinters and Kim Money. Thank you all for coming this morning. And as usual, stunning photographs to greet us to your submission.
Good morning, Leanne, councillor and staff. Pardon? In your photos? Sorry, Dion. I know you're famous, but you know.
Famous in his own backyard.
As I said, good morning. So today with me I have Linda Stewart, who is our Submissions Committee Chair, Tim Sinters, our Deputy Chair, and Joe Wells, our Governance Manager. You might recall in the annual plan I likened the city of Christchurch to a house, and the Coastal-Burwood ward was the living room with a huge panoramic window. So how's the house and the living room doing? The family, that's everybody here, made a great start on the living room, with a new children's play area just outside the room, and a few other improvements are in the pipeline which we appreciate. However, the family revised its LTP budget for the house, and unfortunately the issues and future potential of the living room were not reflected in the family's new budget. The question is, does the family really appreciate the full potential of this room? Currently there are budget items missing. The living room requires an LTP commitment from the family in order for this room to catch up. The commitment and investment would attract residents, visitors, provide huge recreational opportunities, increase rate take, bring value and worth to the recovery and regeneration of not only the living room but also the rest of the house. So what does this potential actually look like? The LTP talks about areas of growth. Here are some of our current and potential growth areas. On the top left we have 2 new high schools, got residential red zone, Preston subdivision, QE2, Burwood Hospital, New Brighton foreshore developments and New Brighton master plan. And we appreciate and acknowledge your support for DCL and the work that they are doing. The question is, do you see us as a growth area? Community initiatives. We mention this because our community do not just have their hands continually held out, but on the contrary, their hands are continually getting stuck in. Our amazing community have raised and contributed millions of dollars towards events and fantastic community facilities. Well done to them. We appreciate and acknowledge you. It is essential that our existing and proposed LT items are retained for our board. An LTP question. Has the council got the balance right? Our board said no, primarily because temporary flood protection instead of permanent, no budget. Estuary edge earthquake repairs, replacing what we had, no budget. Styx River catchment issues, no budget. Regeneration plan strategies, no budget. On the slide above you see here Thompson Park car park and Rafferty Domain tennis courts. Thompson Park is a highly utilised park and skate park by the beach. Safety issues need addressing and are a great concern to us, the community and the police. We require additional budget next year to concurrently address the car park and the safety issues. Rafferty Domain alongside Thompson Park has an 11-year-old management plan. Other than 2 items, the sports turf and the tennis court renewals, which the board want retained, there is no budget to implement the plan. The board requests $350 per annum for the next 5 years. We have also highlighted other things in our written submission, like the New Brighton Bridge renewal. The plague of biblical proportions, the midges, Linwood Central Heathcote. Very pleased to see budget allocated. However, for the full midge management plan to be implemented, this needs to be increased to $360 a year for 10 years. Program reprioritisation for earthquake catch-up is needed. For example, up on the screen, this is Cocaine Reserve by Wainoni Bridge on New Brighton Road. This historical reserve car park is used to store construction material. It's now a real eyesore. Other examples, New Brighton and Breezes Road potholes and flooding on Pages and New Brighton Road. Transport. On the left, as I've just explained, this is what we have. On the right is what we would actually quite like. However, we note that the prioritisation of works is based on condition and traffic volume. This is a concern that the east current low traffic volume roads that are in poor condition may not meet this threshold. Where does earthquake and regeneration sit with this criteria? Through community conversations and the LTP engagement, our community repeatedly told us that the $206 million on cycleways is not a priority given the day-to-day issues they still face, and our board agrees. A higher priority for our community in relation to transport was invest and improve our public transport connections and services. You can't get a whole family on a bike, but you can get a whole family on a bus. In principle, we support cycleways. However, we request that Council ask the Government to extend the subsidy as this city is still in a recovery stage. Indirect impacts of all the aforementioned issues to our community are and have been social, health and safety, economic, psychosocial and social degradation, to name a few. This is in direct contrast to what we, the Council, are aiming towards. I quote the LTP Have Your Say document: Christchurch, a place of opportunity for all, a place that is open to new ideas, new people and new ways of doing things, a place where anything is possible. This is a great vision. This is the positive lens that needs to be worn when finding budget and solutions for our ward. Tim.
Okay, next photo. Temporary flood protection. This is an aerial shot of South Shore, showing the temporary bund, which protects about 500 families in their homes. The next photo is on the left-hand side. You see a picture of an existing wall, a wall that was there and it got pulled down after the earthquake, got damaged. And you can see on the right-hand side, that's what it looks like now. Next page shows what a big tide looks like. It's quite nerve-wracking for the residents. And after, this is a flood line after the big tide on the 2nd of February. As you can see, the temporary bung got overtopped. Luckily there wasn't a big weather event with it. A real worry. Even though we are thankful for the temporary bund, it has given little long-term confidence to the families that live there. They are now finding out that some people who are trying to build, to bind their section and getting their plans done, are having trouble getting their resource consents. This is not good for the community. That is trying to get itself back on its feet. This is to do with being in the high flood area zone. Let me remind you that a big part of Christchurch would be in this zone if it was not for the stop banks in the Waimak, Sumner and Avon River. Temporary stop banks do not give anybody confidence. Would you go for a long drive with your family and if your mechanic had said that he had done temporary repairs on your brakes? As you will see in the latest slide, the South Shore residents asked a coastal engineer, Gary Tier, to do a plan for the permanent protection of the estuary. I'll talk to that later. We feel this plan is exciting as it covers all the needs, i.e. protection, aesthetics, natural looking, with a cycle walkway on top. What is a concern in the Regen Strategy Plan for South Shore and South Brighton is there is no budget. This is a worry. On to South New Brighton. Yeah. You can see in this picture here, this is a picture of some Reno mattresses that weren't damaged in the earthquake, and they're performing very well. You can see the trees behind are in excellent condition. And of course, next photo will show you another particular bit where it's undamaged and going very well there.
And white gum boots.
Yeah. Next photo, this is an example of the problem we are now facing. We have lost approximately 20 trees with another 30 at risk of going this year, with another 60, 70 behind them. Apart from being unsightly, these pose a big danger to the users of the council walkway alongside. The local campground is next to this and has visitors from all over the world. What an impression they must get when they see this. See the next slide? I must remind you too, see that tree there that's falling over, that's falling towards the pathway. It got hung up there on another tree. This is happening all the time, and this is what we're going to end up if we do nothing about it. There's so many trees there, this is not a quick fix. If we don't protect it, we're going to get this mess forever. Each tree costs between $4,000 to $5,000 to remove. There's approximately 100 trees there at risk. Contractors who have been doing the work on the nearby jetty and surroundings have quoted $550,000 to repair the estuary edge. If we don't do this, we will look at this danger we face for many years to come. And we can go back to that plan there. Gary Tier, Coastal Engineer's plan. Imagine this showcasing our area with adaptation to future weather events an amazing cycle walkway nature visit. As we all know, the vistas are stunning and the amount of people appreciating it there is amazing. This could link up to all the cycle lanes, walkways around the estuary. In fact, wouldn't it be great if we could have a barge like they do in Nelson that takes people and cyclists to Redcliffe to link up with the cycleway there. And if you see on the next photo there, this is Gary's plan. It's a soft edge. He's even drawn a bit of a plan like it could be a Goblet Island, the yellow place there. This is the vision. It could be absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Kim.
Thanks, Dan. I'm going to talk about the Styx River catchment working party consisting of Papanui Innes, Coastal-Burwood community boards and the community. This working party has been meeting since July 2017 to provide community input into a decision making about the Styx River catchment, particularly in its lower reaches. The catchment extends 24.8 kilometres from Harewood, Bishopdale through to Belfast, and more recently Preston's development drainage exits into the Styx River. Concerns have been identified, and we can go to those if you want questions later. The recommendations: 1, an increase of 400,000 annually between 2018 and 2021. That is to do further dredging of the river blockages areas where identified as appropriate. Number 2, long-term budget requirement of 600,000 for a long-term strategy. Both the boards saw this as vital for a Styx River master plan, for a 100-year plan, with staff and community engagement involved. And number 3, long-term budget requirement of 40 million, and we'll ask you to refer to the GDH report, a one-off action over a 3-year period to compensate for the under-maintenance of the river since 1993. More recently, we've learned of other concerns. The board has fielded concerns from the community that point to the Aranui pumping station and the wastewater systems under-providing, and it seems that the build was not to manage future growth. This also includes evidence by reports of groundwater entering the sewer system and sewer breaches into the Avon River. This means increasing pollution breaches will be a serious environmental and health issue. And moving back to Burwood again, an area-wide community meeting facility for Burwood. 3 suburbs equal 1 community facility. Of all the city's suburbs devastated by the Canterbury earthquakes, Burwood, Avondale and Darlington were hit far by the worst. They lost their neighbours, shops, churches and schools. And more than that, they lost their sense of community belonging as they continue to face constant change. Social isolation is a major concern. There is no meeting facility in any of these suburbs. There weren't prior to the earthquakes. The subsequent residential red zoning, followed by formation of Regenerate, held the community to ransom. However, there have been no recovery projects that have been planned in all this time. These communities, the people, have really suffered. Last year, the board, aware of these concerns, actioned a research study for Coastal-Burwood wards. This showed very clearly a need for a community meeting facility in the west of the ward. The board has also received a deputation seeking support to save the Burwood School Hall for community use when it was publicised that the Burwood Primary School would be demolished. The concerns go back that far. Earlier this year, with funds from the Community Resilience Partnership Fund, a feasibility study has been approved to scope what this community facility could look like and what it would provide. That study is underway and will be completed before year end. Very recently, the board received a letter on behalf of Burwood, Avondale and Darlington organisations. These include 3 respective residents' associations, 2 churches and a trust. They are asking the board to request council register an interest in purchasing the land currently in disposal process by the Ministry of Education. This site was previously the Burwood Primary School. The board is fully supportive of this location. In fact, it is likely to be the only potential site for an area-wide meeting facility. Therefore, it asks the council to expedite the purchase process. I believe that's underway, and to set aside funds for a community facility build project. Councillor Livingston and myself are willing to continue working together to gauge potential for a public-private funding project, and there is potential for other entities to be included. After almost 8 years of being on hold, we feel this project should be expedited to allow the broken communities to rebuild. And moving to issues at QE2 Park. We ask that a feasibility study on demand and supply of a 50-metre deep water facility be added to QE2's existing, we're waiting for, to be opened pools. And we think the timing should be 2020, which would give the high schools time to impact on the 25-metre that we're currently using, will be using, and for a build prospect planned for 2021. A whole generation of children in the east have missed out on one of the most significant life skills to master, swim capability. A child aged 6 in 2011 is now attending high school. While our eastern communities and outlying districts look forward with excitement to the opening of our new facility, the pressure on capacity planning for the 2-metre deep pool is already a concern for the board. Children and youth must be given every opportunity to become aqua proficient and have access to deep water sports. So must adults, especially older people who are big lane users. The board has concerns with the pool programming for the 25-metre pool and already sees limited access for community use from opening day onwards, as user groups dominate this deep water pool space and community providers provide with only 3 lanes. While we accept that some of the user groups will transfer to the sports metro, we see the increased demand will be from the new residential developments and the 3 high schools. In particular, the pressure added by Avonside Girls High and Shirley Boys High being at QE2 Park. It concerns us greatly that community will lose access to the schools. Very few from the east will transfer use to the sports metro because it is inaccessible in time and cost to do anything other than an occasional visit. This disadvantages coastal and eastern communities. From many quarters, community have expressed their concerns loud and clear. Letters to the editor, media reporting, Facebook groups, and deputation direct to board. And recently, the QE2 Park Master Planning event, which attracted a great number of people, registered their concern that QE2 will need a 50-metre pool. The Aquatics Facility Plan assessment informed that the Eastern Aquatic Facility needs to cater for a population of 60,000. Clearly, as community have been trying to tell its community board and council, another deep water pool is required, and this board stands behind Councillor East and Councillor Livingston's call, along with the community's call, for another pool to be fast-track built at QE2. Thank you.
The New Brighton War Memorial south of the pier. Graffiti and vandalism led to these current panels. The New Brighton RSA community and our board believe they have created a visual barrier and detract from the memorial. The board would like to lead a collaborative project. Removing the panels and re-landscaping would not only create an attractive space for reflection and commemoration, but would draw more people to use the area, therefore reducing the likelihood of vandalism. $300 million capital acceleration fund. You can see up there we've suggested a couple of things there, and the board would like to be part of the discussions with council on this funding. LTP documents. Yep, that just about sums it up, not just for me but also the community. Sourcing LTP information specifically for our ward was extremely difficult and time consuming for us, let alone the community. We appreciate the improvements that have been done, but there needs to be more. Improvements must be made if there is to be greater, active and well-informed submission participation. And for planning, transparency in future community boards, line items need to remain in APs and LTPs, and we request that action. Our ward hosts local, national and international events, which I show you every month in our board report. Because our foreshore is a metropolitan asset, there is increased usage in hot weather and at event times. Therefore, greater levels of maintenance and subsequent budget is required for and in this unique environment. So in conclusion, the community board and our residents believe that our ward requires greater investment to give us equity with the rest of the city. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. I've got Vicky, Glenn and Sarah, but I don't think we're going to get through all of those because we've got 23 seconds to go. So Vicky, you were number one.
Top priority in the red zone, given that you can now lease the land for 5 years, what would you most like to have happen there as quickly as possible?
Really good question. I think we haven't actually discussed that for a board, but we know that the cycleway, the recreational cycleway, is actually going to be put through there. So, beg your pardon? We're aware of it, but we haven't actually discussed what our top priority would be.
I think it'd be fair to
was
say
only
that the
announced
green
last
spine
week.
would be used,
Well,
we'd
week 4.
maximise that.
Yeah.
And had the same briefings we have over government changes over.
Next question.
No, it's not the point. The point is that the question is in relation to whether you've given some thought to temporary use within the residential red zone as a community board. No. Thank you. All right, well, look, thank you very much. That's to the end of the time, so much appreciated. And, of course, a lot of detail in there, and, you know, you've obviously gone to a lot of trouble, so I'd like to thank you on behalf of all of the councillors. Thank you. And if we could now adjourn the meeting until 11:10 a.m. Thank you.